I have an older sister who is naturally weak. My parents always prefer her. She is the one who has good things. If she is wrong, I will be beaten. Even my boyfriend empathizes with me and doesn't fall in love with my sister. My parents also want me to be genient and not to argue with the patient. In order to pursue a little love from them, I have been patient with their unreasonable demands. Until I was pushed on the road by my sister and had a car accident, my parents transplanted my heart to my sister while I was still saved. And my ex-boyfriend also sighed and soon got out with his sister. In the next life, I will no longer beg for that illusory family affection. In the face of those who just want to regard me as a part of their family affection and love, I have only one feeling. Get out of here, don't hit me. 01. I was reborn in the taxi. When I came to my senses, I realized that I was on my way to the dinner party between Chu and Meng to discuss the engagement. The emperor has eyes, let me do it again. I immediately told the driver to pay extra and turn around. Anyway, taxis are calculated according to the distance, so the driver naturally doesn't mind taking a detour. I came to my parents' house and went to the bedroom to take out the household registration book. Fortunately, I don't live at home, so my parents don't protect me and don't lock the door. And they probably don't think that I will take the household registration book, so when I'm at home, they might as well take things from me and let me know where the household registration book is. All of this, but I have to thank my sister, who is born with a bad heart. Her parents have favored her since she was a child, which can be seen from her name. Her name is Chucheong and my name is Chuyu, the extra one. In this regard, my parents originally named me Chuyu, but the staff who registered the name made a mistake. By the time they got the household registration book, it was a Farigon account, and they didn't want to bother the staff anymore. My mother also taught me solemnly, the value of a person does not lie in his name. As long as you work hard, you can make a career no matter what you call it. Then why don't you change the name of the other daughter to Chucheong? When I got to college, they changed my room because Chucheong wanted to study. I had a big fight with my parents in tears. The father said impatiently, "It's not that I didn't give you a room. Besides, it's not your turn to be in the house. You should be grateful for giving you a place to sleep." My mother still told me the truth as usual. He made me think about it, saying that sooner or later I would have to be independent and can't rely on my parents for the rest of my life. He was right, so I moved out after that day, from staying at school to renting outside. It was not until 2 years ago that I finally saved some money and paid the down payment to buy a house of my own. Chu Cheong, who benefited the most from this matter, has been as quiet as a chicken. It was not until I slammed the door and left that I vaguely heard her comfort her parents. "Xiao Yu will understand you when she grows up." On the way, I kept receiving messages and calls from my parents Chu Cheong. I set all the do not disturb and looked through the chat records. I found that the transfer records and the key content I wanted to back up were there, so I no longer wronged myself and blocked them all. Now it's finally quiet. In my previous life, I was not only forced to attend the dinner party between my ex-boyfriend and my own sister to discuss marriage, but I also paid the money in the end. Because my mother said that this can show that I am really relieved and prove that I have grown up. Ironically, although I paid for the money, I had never tasted the expensive dishes for each person, and my parents quickly handed them all to Chu Cheong. The past is unbearable to look back. I really had cerebral palsy in my last life. 02. That I was curious about who would pay for the meal after I didn't go that day. But I knew it soon because Chu Cheong was waiting for me in the cafe on my way home from work the next day. As soon as she saw me, she ran out to block me. "Xiao Yu." Someone suddenly appeared in front of me to block me, which really shocked me. "Xiao Yu, why didn't you come yesterday?" He also blocked us all. "Are you still taming us? Didn't we talk about it before? Do you understand me and Asu?" Chu Cheong said in one breath. After so much, I was a little out of breath. I took 2 steps back to avoid her intimation. At the same time, I turned on my mobile phone to record without moving. She calmed down a little and began to complain again. "You didn't come yesterday." In the end, Dad paid the bill. My parents have been unhappy since they came home. Our parents are so old that we really shouldn't let them spend money anymore, otherwise they will be unfilial. Do you think this is the truth, Xiao Yu? Although I have been used to being robbed by her since I was a child, I was still shocked by her shamelessness. "No, why do you want me to pay for the engagement dinner with Meng Su? Not only me and Asu, but also the elders of the Chu and Meng families are here. You are also a member of the Chu family. How can you not attend? Have you forgotten how Mom and Dad taught us to treat people and things when we were young?" She sighed. "You didn't attend yesterday, and Uncle Meng and others felt that their parents didn't teach the children well. You know, Uncle Meng and they had a little sight for our family." I sneered. Meng's father and mother are corporate executives and university professors. Their family conditions are much better than those of the Chu family whose parents are ordinary employees. Because of this, when I fell in love with Meng Su before, his parents were not very satisfied, but they didn't say anything. As a result, in the blink of an eye, Meng Su claimed that Chu Cheong was his true love. He must break up with me and stay with Chu Cheong. Meng's father and mother saw that their son actually chose a girlfriend with heart problems. They were so angry that they almost fainted. My parents didn't care that their 2 daughters were chosen. Instead, they were eager to push Chu Cheong to Meng Su, which made Meng's father and Meng's mother despise them. At this time, I saw a familiar figure rushing here in the corner of my eye. "It's Meng Su." That I suddenly felt bad luck and secretly said bad luck. Meng Su hurriedly stood in front of Chu Cheong and shot at me. "Chu Yu, I fell in love with your sister first. Breaking up is my one-sided behavior. I said that if you want to hate me, don't target your sister." I rolled my eyes and said, "Which of your eyes saw me targeting her?" Mengsu choked for a moment and said, "Why did you become so unreasonable? Do you know that I didn't come yesterday, which made my parents have a bad impression of your family again? I finally persuaded them to accept Cheong's. Chuyu, you know something." The more he said, the more outrageous it became. I didn't bother to listen anymore, so I turned around and left. Chu Cheong hurriedly said, "Asu, stop Xiaoyu quickly. We are going to take her home to see her parents today." "Don't worry, I'm going." "Chuyu, stop." Mengsu came up and took my hand and didn't let me go. I immediately shouted, "Help, the trafficker is robbing people." The crowd around suddenly looked at me. Mengsu panicked when he saw this and hurriedly said to the passers-by, "We are friends, just a little misunderstanding. Fag your mother's friend." I quickly took out the anti-wolf spray from my bag and sprayed it on his face. "Didn't you always say that I just need to target you? I'll satisfy you." "Ah!" Mengsu screamed and covered his face and fell to the ground. I took the opportunity to run away. 03. When I got home, I received a call from Ming's mother. She accused me of being too vulgar and without a tutor. "Asu is a painter. Can you take responsibility if something happens to his eyes?" I was speechless for a while. "Auntie, it was your son who harassed me in the street and used violence against me, so I sprayed him. He is also kind-hearted to ease the relationship with your family. Why are you so indecisive between good and bad? And what do you call me? Is this how your family teaches you to talk to elders?" Her voice was full of disbelievability. She probably didn't expect that I, who used to be so unright this time. "At least you have talked for a while. Even if you can't talk together because of different levels, it's a peaceful breakup and it's not an enemy, right? Break up peacefully?" I smiled and said, "It's clear that it's your son who stepped on two boats to make a seamless connection. I didn't forget him until my brain was watery in the past, but now I've emptied the water." Her voice suddenly became louder. "Obviously, it was your sister who seduced Asu. Otherwise, how could he be with your sister's woman? How do I know that? Maybe they are flies biting dung." After saying that, without waiting for her to respond, she quickly blocked her and Meng's father's contact information. What a mistake to forget it before. Then save the call recording just now. Since my rebirth, I have been sorting out the past voice, chat and transfer records. When I meet them, I also pay attention to recording at any time, so I also bought a recorder. Seeing the increasing number of pages of PDF, I was very satisfied while spitting on my previous cerebral palsy behavior. Then I was quiet for a while. And then I received a call from my mother from another number. I thought she was calling to scold me and was about to hang up the phone. I didn't know that she and Yin Yuesa said that they wanted to have a family meal together to resolve the misunderstanding. The conflict between the dogman and woman and me was not a few days in advance. There must be demons when something abnormal happens. I thought about it. When I saw the date, I suddenly remembered something in my previous life. My parents didn't have much vision and ambition. In their previous life, they were coaxed by an old friend whom they had not seen for many years to vote for a project that was said to be very promising. In the end, they lost hundreds of thousands of yuan and compensated the dowry that was originally going to give to Chu Cheong. So they put the idea on me, tears and a handful of snot telling me that it was not easy to raise two children from childhood to adults, and praised their love for me that did not exist, and asked me to help them fill this hole. I have been ignored and suppressed since I was a child. I really wanted to get that ethereal family affection that I really sold the house I was offering. After they got the money, they looked a little good to me at first. After a long time, they became cute again. They even replied to me impatiently when I mentioned this matter. "But it's just a little money. How many times do you want to talk about it? You are just not as sensible as Acheong." Counting the time, it's almost time for the pig-killing thunderstorm in this life. Anyway, the household registration has been transferred. It's better to return the household registration book to them, and see if they can say something. 04. I came to the hotel box and saw the three families with ghostly smiles. "Why did you come here?" The father was a little angry and was pulled by his mother. Realizing their purpose today, he reluctantly changed his tone. "We haven't seen you for a long time, especially your sister. She misses you very much and insists on waiting for you to move your chopsticks." I saw that there was a table of dishes ordered on the table, but they were all Chu Cheong's favorite food. "Come on. This is your favorite scallion and ginger shrimp." My mother put one in my plate. Chu Cheong said coquettishly, "Mom, I want to eat too." "Well, I can't forget you." Mother put another one in Chu Cheong's plate. She looked at me and began to perform. In fact, the palms and backs of her hands are full of flesh. How can a parent really be partial to a certain child? After saying that, he laughed twice. I didn't say anything, just watched her act quietly. Seeing that I didn't respond, she began to sigh. "Xiaoyu, I know you have been slamming your parents, but in fact we love you sisters equally." I interrupted her. "Mom, I can't eat green onions or shrimps." She was a little embarrassed when she heard the words. "I'm sorry, Xiaoyu. Recently my parents have been annoyed by something, so they forgot this. But I haven't forgotten what Chu Cheong likes to eat." I nodded. "It doesn't matter. Anyway, I've been used to it since I was a child. Since I was a child, I could only follow Chu Cheong to pick up what she didn't want. I definitely don't have what she likes, and I have to take over what she doesn't like, otherwise I will be ignorant and wasteful. When she was a child, she fell down. You blamed me for not taking good care of her. You punished me for kneeling for 4 hours and not letting me have dinner. In junior high school, they left school late on the 3rd day of junior high school, so I couldn't go home after school in the first year of junior high school. I had to wait for her to leave school together. In high school, in order to make me take care of her, she forced me to go to the same high school as her. Even if she was in her senior year of high school, she could only take care of her for a year. Of course, not to mention the university, I must also only apply for the local university, and be accompanied by Chu Cheong in those 2 years. Isn't it funny to tell me that you love us the same way now? Father's face sank. What's the point of you turning over the old account now? Your sister has been in poor health since she was a child. Shouldn't we favor her more? Although you couldn't go to the school you wanted to attend because of this, your sister was taken care of and grew up safely and healthily. Xiaoyu, I didn't know that you hated me for so many years for studying. Chu Cheong looked sad. I thought we were a family, so I didn't think so much. However, after all, your parents raised you to grow up and let you study. Is it too much of your attitude towards them? The father hummed and said, Look at your sister, how sensible you are. I said patiently, You won't forget that our country has a 9-year compulsory education, will you? As for high school, how can I take care of you if I don't study? Even my high school scholarship was confiscated by them to supplement your health. The mother said unconvincedly, Then the university. She shut up before she finished speaking, probably remembering that she didn't give me much money when I was in college. It seems that my mother also remembered that when I was in college, I relied on part-time work and scholarships to solve the tuition fee for 4 years of college. However, because I knew that it was impossible for me to study for a postgraduate degree, I worked after graduating from college, so I was lucky enough to enter a good company and meet a good boss. After working for several years, I could save money to pay a down payment. If I could be reborn earlier, maybe I could choose a bigger house. My father pointed at me, and his fingers kept shaking. There was no afterthing you in his mouth. Well, tell me what's going on when you came to me today. I have something to do next. Maybe it's because I just vented it, and eventually they will be as soft as before, and they are relieved one by one. The mother hurriedly said, That's it. She talked about the encounter with the pig-killing plate and then complained, I haven't seen you for a long time. I didn't expect people to be so bad. I said and said, Then what? What do you want me to do? Father suddenly, he put the cup on the table and shouted, Your mother said it so clearly that why do you pretend to be confused? You want us to be your parents to beg you in person. The mother pretended to be angry and said, Why are you so fierce? The child didn't say he wouldn't help. I wanted to laugh a little and I did laugh. So what do you want me to do? I don't have so much savings to fill your hole. The mother frowned as if she hesitated for a long time and then said, How much money do you have? Take it out and help the family first. 10,000 or 20,000 yuan. After all, I have to repay the loan every month. It costs a lot of money to live outside, and I can't save money. The father patted the table. I told you long ago that I won't let you buy a house outside. Is there no place for you to live at home? What does it look like to go out to buy a house? Outsiders know how they think we abuse you. At the beginning, they knew that I had a big temper when I bought a house, but fortunately, I was in a bad mood that day and forced them to withstand their pressure. And then I promised that I would not lose the monthly money for my family in the future, so they didn't complain much. After taking a sip of water, the father said, You can sell the house tomorrow, move home, pay your monthly salary, and leave 1,000 yuan for living expenses. He stared at me. Did you hear me? I replied calmly. I heard it. The recording is almost here. He thought I was soft, and said, That's about the same. The mother also smiled and said, Okay, the matter is settled. Let's eat. Chu Cheong's eyes flashed with pride. I won't sell the house. They were stunned all of a sudden, as if they couldn't understand what I had just said. I took out the household registration book from my bag and threw it on the table. My father grabbed it and was shocked. How can the household registration book be with you? I didn't answer him but said, I won't give you any more money until you lose your labor force. The father seemed to think of something. He turned to a certain page of the household registration book and trembled with anger. Well, you are going to break off the relationship with us, aren't you? My mother's eyes turned red. She stood up and pulled me when I was about to leave. She said in a trembling voice, Xiaoyu, don't you really want mom and dad? Chu Cheong was very nervous. He changed his previous weakness and said sternly, Chu, what are you doing? How old are you to be angry with your elders? Apologize to your parents. I took my mother's hand away and looked at her smiling. There is still sauce on both sides of your mouth. Does the sauce bone here taste good? When she heard this, she didn't care about pretending to be sensible. She hurriedly picked up a tissue to wipe it. The father roared, Don't say yes or no. I tell you, you can get this money even if you don't, otherwise your mother, and I will go to your company to promote it. In the past, in order to get closer to them, I told them about the current situation of the company as soon as I entered the current company. I didn't expect that now I became their sharp weapon to stab me. Fortunately, I no longer care about them after I was reborn. Hearing him say this, I just replied flatly, Then I will pull Chu Cheong to the end together. The shocked eyes of the three people pleased me and I continued, I can do what I say. You will definitely not be able to protect her for the rest of your life. You. The father covered his chest and said, You're going to make me angry, unfilial daughter. When I walked out of the door, I heard my father shouting in the box, Let her get out. From now on, I will treat her as a daughter. 05. Although I used Chu Cheong to bluff my parents for the time being, I knew that they would not give up. However, they should not have the energy to trouble me for the time being, because something else will trip them soon. In her previous life, it was at this time. After Chu Cheong relied on me to sell the house to save her dowry, She happily took Meng-su to see what she would need for marriage. That day, I was sent out by the boss to do business and happened to meet them. I didn't want to pay attention to them, but Chu Cheong intended to come and stimulate me and show me how much Meng-su loves her. I was so angry that I quarreled with Chu Cheong. Meng-su was buying something for Chu Cheong at that time. Seeing this, he was afraid that I would hurt Chu Cheong and rushed out of the store to stop me. As soon as he left the store, a truck drove into the store out of control, and he happened to escape. And Chu Cheong pushed me while I was distracted by the miserable situation in the store, but I was seriously injured by a passing vehicle. In order to delay my treatment time, Chu Cheong pretended to have a heart attack. When I was also sent to the hospital, my life was on the line, but there was still a possibility of saving me at that time. But under Chu Cheong's hard performance, my parents gave up on me without hesitation and chose to transplant my heart to my sister. Even if the doctor persuaded me to be saved, my sister's condition did not worsen, and my parents still insisted on their own opinions. After my death, my parents were only sad for 3 days and came out under Chu Cheong's comfort. Meng-su and Chu Cheong got married and soon had a child. My parents couldn't help but be happy. When they went to my grave, they said, "We forgive your previous ignorance. Your sister is very happy now. You can rest assured. Mom and Dad can't help it. I gave birth to you to prepare for your sister. Well, if we are destined to be a family in the next life, we will definitely treat you well. So that's it. No wonder I can't get any love from them." Floating next to me, I was extremely angry. The moment I wanted to rush over to question them, I was reborn. Of course, I won't go on a date with that pair of dogmen and women in this life. I want to see if Meng-su can still be safe without disturbing trouble in the middle. 2 weeks later, just like in my previous life, I followed the boss's instructions to go to the place where the accident happened in my previous life. I deliberately avoided the place where they would pass by, and waited in the tea house opposite the accident site after finishing the work in advance. After a while, I saw Meng-su and Chu Cheong coming. Chu Cheong pouted and spoiled Meng-su. Meng-su said, "My sister is weak and her parents prefer her. I was pushed to the road and killed by her?" 39103 after gently coaxing, she went into the store to buy something, while Chu Cheong went to the milk tea shop not far away to buy milk tea. Seeing this scene again, I found that I was not as calm as I imagined. My heart was beating wildly, and I was eager to see them suffer the consequences they should have suffered. And Chu Cheong on the other side of the road also found me. Through the glass window, I saw her give me a provocative smile. I also smiled and said to her, "Your retribution has arrived." At this time, with a loud noise, a truck rushed into the store. Everyone in the store was stunned by this emergency and flocked to the window to check the situation. I watched the milk tea in Chu Cheong's hand fall to the ground, and she turned her head in disbelief. I knew it was difficult for Meng-su to get out, so he retreated from the crowd with satisfaction. The last thing I saw was Chu Cheong kneeling on the ground with his chest covered. No one is watching her performance now. What is she doing? An idea suddenly flashed through my mind. Is Chu Cheong really a heart attack this time? 06. Chu Cheong really fell ill, and Meng-su, who was seriously injured, were sent to the hospital one after another. Meng-su was hit hard by a truck and fractured his hand and foot. His mother has always been proud of her son as a well-known painter, and it seems that she will not be able to show off her son in the future. I don't know who is more miserable than the dogman and woman. At this time, the only comforting thing was that the store was supposed to be redecorated after being set. At that time, there were only a few clerks and one customer in the store. Except for Meng-su, everyone else was slightly bruised. I will know this that it's because after the accident, their parents kept changing their numbers and calling me crazily, accusing me of not being saved. Obviously, they saw Chu Cheong's illness but deliberately ignored it. The 6 relatives did not recognize that they had no family affection. They threatened me that I had to be responsible for the medical expenses of Chu Cheong and Meng-su, or I would come to the company where I worked. When I saw that they even had Meng-su's expenses, I was responsible for it, and I suddenly felt that it was really fucking cheap. Fortunately, I had prepared for a long time. As soon as I was reborn, I prepared a new account. During this period, I gradually transferred customers and colleagues to the new account. After backing up all the evidence, I threw the old phone card into the flush toilet. This time, they said that they would really come to the company to make trouble. After I said hello to the boss, I started to work from home. In fact, I originally planned to resign. Although I was reluctant to give up the atmosphere of the company and my colleagues, I have a deep understanding of my parents' unreasonableness. I really don't have the confidence not to let them affect my work. I'm ready to rent out the house and go to work in other places. Unexpectedly, the boss Jinjing was also a person who came out of an eccentric family and worked hard on her own. After knowing what had happened to me, she let me work at ease, and she would help me deal with my parents. That I was grateful and relieved. In the next week, my parents really came to my company to make trouble every day, and the little receptionist who had a good relationship with me sent me a message about the situation that day. "Sister, that scene really scared me to death. They were stopped by the security guard and couldn't get in, so they cried at the door. They asked you to pay and take care of your sister. Our boss came out and said that you had resigned and publicized the bad things they had done, and then they left. But sister, you must be careful. I think they said they would come to your house before they left." I thanked her and comforted her with 2 words to show that I had been prepared. Yes, I don't know their virtue. It's inevitable to make trouble in the community I live in now. 07. It was probably because the company I worked for suffered a loss. They learned to be good and found helpers when they came to my community. When they came, I happened to go downstairs to get the express. When I went back to my building, I was Aunt Wu, the kind neighbor, pulled aside and said, "Girl, be careful. Your parents brought several people in from the west gate of the community. I guess they will come to trouble you. They used to come to my place to get some autumn breeze. They had a bad attitude and were not polite to see other neighbors. The neighbors in the community had a bad impression of them, and they also had opinions on me. Later, after a long time, the neighbors knew that I was a poor person who was sucked by my parents' sister's blood, and they changed from dissatisfaction to pity for me. In my previous life, I still felt that the family was ugly and generally didn't sell badly, but after I was reborn, I changed my practice and took the opportunity to promote what they did several times when chatting in the owners group. The neighbors in the community sympathized with me more after eating the detailed melon. In addition, I usually be kind to others, so Aunt Wu will urgently inform me of evacuation today. I was still a little scared when I heard the news. After all, it would be troublesome to meet them outside. So I took a long detour back home and quickly locked several locks as soon as I entered the door. It didn't take long for me to hear the sound of clapping on the door outside. There was also a loud roar. "Is Miss Chuyu here? We are from the Citizen Mediation Program team, and we were entrusted by your parents to mediate the misunderstanding between you." "I'm deaf. Listen to the voice. This is the self-righteous old host on the mediation program. What this person's favorite thing to do is to arrange for couples, parents and children whose relationship has broken down, regardless of the actual situation. The most outrageous thing is that a woman insisted on divorce because her husband was full of prostitution, gambling and drugs, and often had domestic violence. The old man forced her words to say that a husband and wife were 100 days old, and insisted that they should make up. In the end, the woman couldn't stand the pressure of the program team and had no choice but to agree. I really can't forget that desperate look for the rest of my life. Your parents also had no choice but to do this. It's not the way to hide all the time. What can't be said openly between the family? If you have any grievances, you can also say it. I, Lao Hu, promise you that I will evaluate it fairly and will not favor one of them." I still didn't answer but checked the long microblog draft sent before. After confirming that it was correct, I began to add a few lines and clicked to send. The old Hu was silent for a while and spoke again. This time his voice was unhappy. "It's boring for you to do this. If you are really so uncooperational, Lao Hu will have to use some methods." I turned on the live broadcast and called 110 to call the police at the same time. The voice of the parents outside the door also sounded. "Lao Hu, don't beg her anymore. She just can't do it. Look everyone, this is the daughter we have worked hard to support, because we prefer her sister. She is going to cut off relations with us, and she can't save her own sister. We are a little biased towards the eldest daughter, but that's because the eldest daughter has a heart disease, and the youngest daughter is so ruthless. We are really..." Suddenly, I opened the door to the neighbor. "Sister Sue," the hostess said angrily, "it's a little moral, okay? Even if today is a day off, we can't be so noisy in broad daylight." The mother's voice was flattering. "I'm sorry, sister. It's really my little daughter who is too ignorant." "Don't blame your daughter." Sister Sue's voice was very disgusted. "We know what virtues your parents are." Father was very angry. "Why don't you people distinguish between good and bad? That must be her nonsense to slander us." I slayed loudly against the door. "Sister Sue, don't quarrel with them. I've already called the police." "What?" When my parents heard that I called the police, they slapped the door harder than the previous old man. "Unfilial daughter. Why are you like this? You even called the police. How dare you call the police for your unfilial behavior? Why don't you die?" My father was so angry that he was incoherent. My mother was still testing me. "Xiao, you don't say such a thing. You didn't call the police, did you? I know you are not such an ignorant child." Sister Sue sneered. Someone in the owners group said that a police car had entered the community. It suddenly became silent outside. 08. There was a little accident before going to the police station. As soon as the police saw that the parents were short, they advised us to close the door to solve the problem. The parents nodded like garlic. Yes, it's all because this child is too ignorant." I looked innocent. "It's not a police officer. They are carrying so many people. I'm afraid." He also said what kind of program team he was in. Lao Hu said angrily, "Why don't you open the door early and cooperate?" I said sarcastically, "Who called you so obscene?" I was too scared to open the door. "You." The policeman said impatiently, "Then go to the police station." I couldn't broadcast live when I went to the police station, so I said to the live camera, "You may be confused about the situation just now. It doesn't matter. I have already posted a long Weibo account. The account is Accessory ABCD. Welcome to dig out the truth. I will post it on Weibo in the future. Then I have to get into the police car as soon as I close the live broadcast." As a result, my parents heard that I was broadcasting live and posting a long micro message just now. Bo's face suddenly changed greatly. Despite the urging of the police, he took out his mobile phone to browse Weibo. He went crazy when he saw what I posted. Needless to say, my father was as incompetent and furious as ever. And the mother finally couldn't pretend to be a loving mother, and began to cry and go crazy. "Do evil. This is my hardworking daughter. Create rumors about your family on the internet for a little thing." My father rushed up to beat me, but was stopped by the police. A group of people divided into 2 cars and arrived at the police station together. With a pale face in the police station, he probably didn't expect to meet someone calling the police during a program. Originally, he could probably take the opportunity to take this as an opportunity to mediate in the police station, and maybe he could improve the ratings. But I posted a long microblog in advance and attached the recording as evidence. Now he has no excuse to say, so he can only watch the program turn over. At the beginning, when my parents arrived at the police station, they were still noisy. After the severe warning of the police, they finally became honest. They looked at me with unwillingness and resentment in their eyes. Of course, when I saw them bringing the program team to the door, I knew that they would definitely sell and absorb a wave of traffic online in the future, forcing me to compromise. I know them too well. It is said that the daughter is not like a father/mother, but in fact the opposite is the same. So I took the lead and took the lead. I couldn't fight back after a few days of being rumored by them. The police in the police station still suggested that we reconcile. I said that as long as my parents don't bother me in the future, I will reconcile. Of course, I will still pay monthly alimony when my parents are 60 years old or lose their ability to work. My parents scolded me for have no conscience, and my mother burst into tears and snot. If you post these things on the internet, what will we be like in the future? Father Chiaching's face said. You quickly delete Weibo and clarify that these are all misunderstandings. You are too careful. We and your sister are not at fault at all. In this way, we will still recognize you as a daughter. Oh, I nodded, then it's waste. I don't care. Anyway, today is a day off. It doesn't matter if the police have someone to take over anyway. But the old whose face has changed from white to green, and the program team can't accompany the two old things all the time. Seeing that I would definitely not listen to him, he began to persuade his parents, but without saying a word, he was scolded by his father. Your program team is really useless and you say that you must give us justice. Lao Hu was also angry. We are just a program team, not an official. What justice do you want? In less than hours my parents couldn't stand it and asked me what to do to delete Weibo. I spread my hands. Don't think about deleting Weibo, but don't you worry about Chu Qiong? She is alone in the hospital now. You probably have hired a nurse, but are you sure? They cared about Chu Qiong and finally signed the settlement letter. After leaving the police station, the program team left in a hurry, leaving only my parents looking at me with hatred. I looked at them with a smile. You don't have to stare at me like this. In fact, I have a way for you. 09. Will I leave a way for them? Of course not. I just gave them the evidence that Meng Su hooked up with Chu Qiong while he was in love with me. Of course, I can't bring out the direct evidence, but some indirect evidence is clear at a glance when they cooperate with their speeches on the online platform and sort out the timeline. The key is the recording of me and Meng Su himself admitting empathy and separation during love. I said to them, I don't want the fish to die and the net is broken. You told the Meng family that it was hard to persuade me not to release this part of the evidence. Naturally, they accepted your kindness, so that Chu Qiong could be saved. Facing their suspicious eyes, I said calmly, I'm not that kind, but I just want to have a peaceful day, so as long as you don't bother me in the future, I'll send you the evidence. They may still have doubts, but they have no choice. Next, they will have to endure a period of online violence and can only hold on to the Meng family. When I got home, I opened Weibo. Sure enough, there were countless private messages and comments, and this matter was also on the hot search. The little girl at the front desk sent me a message saying that the boss also contributed. She bought a lot of Navy and found a few marketing accounts. I suddenly realized that I must work hard to repay Sister Jing. Most of the responses on the internet are to criticize my parents for being biased and bloodthirsty, and a small part sympathize with Chu Qiong's illness, and also think that I am too cold-blooded and have no family affection. My parents were ridiculed and made into emojis and all kinds of stocks. Because Chu Qiong had a heart attack, everyone was still a little tolerant of her. They only ridiculed her and didn't say anything more. Someone asked me why I could prepare the recording early, but there are comments below to justify me. Naturally, I'm afraid of being sucked blood. Do it early and get ready to fight back. I turned off Weibo. I didn't mention Meng Su and others in the long microblog, and it's not that I don't have feelings for this scumbag. Instead, it is easy for the Chu family and the Meng family to unite against me at the same time, and Meng Su has many fans. He is disabled again. Cheating is not a matter in the eyes of many people, and it is easier for him to get sympathy. This will also distract netizens from my parents' biased bloodsucking. So I gave the weapon to my parents, and the next step was just a pull between my parents and the Meng family. After solving my parents' side, I went back to work in the company. 3 months later, my assistant Xiao Wang told me something. Xiao Wang went to the hospital because he had a cold before. As a result, he saw 2 middle-aged couples tearing each other apart in the hospital. He saw one of the couples from the video on the internet and recognized it as my parents. He said that my parents and Rightfang quarreled fiercely. My parents said that they had been scolded on the internet before. As long as netizens mentioned them, they were all kinds of unpleasant names, and they didn't bring out the Meng family. The Meng family now wants to leave his family alone, which is not thought. The Meng family, on the other hand, disliked that my parents were simply vampires. They used to suck the blood of their youngest daughter, but now they don't let go of the Meng family like a dog. Xiao Wang said that they almost did it. From Xiao Wang's paraphrase, I pieced together what happened during this period. As I thought, my parents went to the Meng family to ask for credit with the evidence I gave, but with their double business, what they said would only make the Meng family think it was a threat. At the beginning, the Meng family was still patient, but his parents were never satisfied. In less than 2 months, even Meng Su, who loved Chu Qiong deeply, had a lot of opinions on them. At first, Chu Qiong relied on the money of the Meng family to rescue her. With a little energy, she went to Meng Su and asked him to find a way to teach me a lesson and let her anger out for her parents. Meng Su was in a bad mood after his disability. As time went by, the hope of recovery became dimmer and dimmer, not to mention becoming a painter again. His psychology has also changed a lot, and he became more and more impatient with Chu Qiong's requirements. The Meng family's parents saw that their high-moted son became so gloomy, and naturally blamed all this on the Chu family. So the two families completely broke up, and my parents desperately posted the evidence I gave on the internet. 10. This time I didn't need Sister Jing to buy the navy. With Meng Su's reputation, my parents were on the hot search again. This time they learned to be good. First, they confessed their neglect of me in the past on the internet, and then accused Meng Su of not being dedicated to stepping on two boats. And Meng's father and Meng's mother were holding high and stepping on low, but they didn't expect that netizens didn't stand on their side, but put them together with Meng Su and laughed at them. Originally, the last incident had not been a few months. Although the heat gradually subsided, netizens still remember it. What good results can they have if they jump out now? In the face of the reaction of netizens, they were anxious and talked more and more nonsense. In the end, they couldn't say anything, so they had to delete Weibo and accounts in a hurry. And the previous emoticon packs and stocks also got the second version because they jumped out this time. Of course, I was also involved in this storm. Some people said that I didn't mention Meng Su in my previous Weibo, but pointed the finger at my parents and sisters. It's really hopeless to fall in love. My response was, we broke up long ago, and I don't want to have anything to do with each other anymore. If my parents hadn't continuously harassed me and even came to my door last time, I wouldn't have posted a long Weibo. Some people also wonder how my parents can make such a well-organized long microblog, but there are few people who pay attention to this, and soon they will be overwhelmed by other people's discussions, and no one will pay attention to it. A few days later, I suddenly received a call from the police and learned that my parents had been stabbed by Meng Su's fans. It turned out that Meng Su lost countless fans because of this scandal. He broke up with Chu Qiong in anger. Chu Qiong pushed him downstairs while arguing with him. The latter also caused his left hand to be fractured. Although the injury was much lighter than that of his right hand, he could no longer carry the pen flexibly, that is to say, there was no possibility of Meng Su drawing with his left hand. His only remaining fans were all die-hard fans. After learning about Meng Su's hurt, a little girl felt that it was all my parents' fault, so she secretly followed them and stabbed them one by one while they were unprepared. My parents both went to the ICU because no one paid for them, and they quickly lost their breath. I guess the hospital may have called me, but my old number has been thrown into the flush toilet for a long time, so it is naturally impossible to get through. When the hospital finally informed me, Chu Qiong was also dying because of another heart attack. I cremated my parents, poured the ashes together and packed them in black garbage bags, and took them to see Chu Qiong. Chu Qiong saw my eyes wide-eyed. I smiled and pointed to the black garbage bag. Your good parents are in it. I know you have a deep affection, so I specially brought them to see you. The heart rate curve on the monitor suddenly fluctuated violently, and Chu Qiong's mouth made a whooping sound, but she was wearing an oxygen mask so I couldn't hear it. Anyway, it's just scolding me. I rang the call bell for her, but as soon as the doctor and nurse entered the door, the curve became a straight line. 11. And, after Chu Qiong was also cremated, I poured her ashes into the garbage bag, and then went out to find a trash can to throw them away. I hope their family of 3 can be together in the next life. This result is actually quite unexpected to me, but since it is a good result, I don't have to care about the process. After the matter was resolved, I became more energetic and negotiated several large orders for the company one after another. Half a year later I bought a car. After so many years of work I finally got a car. I was infinitely emotional. I drove home happily. When I stopped at a red light on the road, I heard a familiar voice. What do you care about me, a cripple? You go and give birth to a second child. Let's go. A sloppy man with long hair was yelling at the old woman opposite him. He wanted to push away the old woman who was pulling him, but his hands seemed to have no strength, and his legs were also very unnatural when he stepped back. I fixed my eyes. Isn't that Meng's mother? Then this lame man with stubble. Unexpectedly, in less than a year Meng's mother, who had been well-maintained, gave birth to so much white hair and a lot of wrinkles on her face. Well, but it's nothing to do with me. Just as the red light turned green, I started the car and finally only heard one sentence. What old man still found a little 3 wild seeds? Where is he now? The car drove farther and farther, and I left the 2 people behind. Just after negotiating a list, Sister Jing gave our team a vacation. Go back and make a cup of coffee first and then watch a movie that you want to watch for a long time. Life is so beautiful. The full text is finished.